Welcome to Canberra
Metalheads.
Season 1.
The Archives. Alright, let's kick it.
Welcome to Canberra Metalheads. You got Marky, Malphas,
and Benphegor.
We're joined in the studio today with the boys from Witchskull. So, with us today, we've got
Marcus,
Tony, man bass,
and Joel, drums.
Cool. It's good to catch up with you guys and have a chat, especially after hearing some really cool music that you guys have been putting out, and also paying homage to the cool stuff you've done in the past. Everybody just heard Vast Electric Dark from the 2015 album of the same title. What was that like to record and play?
Jeez.
It was a lot of fun. It was good.
Yeah.
The process was really easy. How many days did it take us to do it?
Well, I think we recorded for about 5 days at Goat Sound Studios in Melbourne, and the guy that runs that, Jason Fuller from Blood Duster, that was the first time we'd worked with him, and it was excellent. Really easy going and really organic.
Yeah, that's cool to hear.
As weird as he is.
Yeah, I think that it takes certain quirks to be good at art. Like a lot of the time, people that are good at certain things like producing music or making music usually have certain quirks that mean that they're not like a normal fit into society type person. Like, it makes it more interesting. We had Headless on the show previously from they produced a record with Goat Sound, so I've heard a lot of good stuff about those guys. But obviously for your new album, you had a different recording process. What sort of you went overseas for that, I hear. What was that like?
Yeah, man, we went to New York, my hometown, to record it. It was like, I brought these guys. We did the first one here with these guys, and they came back to my hometown to do it at Studio G in Brooklyn. Real killer studio, and we did it with Billy Anderson and Jason Fuller.
Yeah, cool.
Real sick, man. Big, like, proper studio, you know?
Yeah.
It's a lot different. The sound's big. It's just, you listen to the two recordings side by side, and it's just like huge, big sound, pro, you know? Yeah.
Cool. And like obviously that leads to other opportunities as well, going overseas and things like that. With the new upcoming album tour and stuff for Australia, what's the comparison between the two album releases? Do you find from a band perspective, has that changed the dynamic at all? Or?
Yeah, big time. This one's on Rise Above Records, you know?
Yeah.
That's good, really good, you know, for the scene that we're in, you know?
Yeah.
That's huge. That's going to open a lot of doors, you know? Get to play with killer bands, you know? Go see the world. You know?
That's the
big
plan.
time.
We're just really hoping to get overseas and do some shows. Like with Marcus and I have played in bands in Australia for a long time, but never really had a chance to do too much outside Australia.
Yep.
So Tony's been living here for 13 years or something now.
Yep.
So we went to doing the album in New York was the first time we got to go overseas together, and we played a show at St. Vitus Bar. But that's that was excellent. But that's the only show we've done so far overseas. So hopefully with this record we can get over and do some touring in Europe or the US. It'd be great.
Yeah, you definitely will, because you guys are a killer band. Like a lot of people I've always heard your name around and stuff, and you ask anyone like, oh, who's Witchskull? They're like, we know who they are. Like, trust me, we know who those guys are.
Cheers.
Yeah, I think also there's some reputation built from previous projects. I mean, you guys have all had pretty, well, at least Marcus and Joel have got these reputations you built in the scene over the years, and these massive resumes of just like bands that you've either played with or played in. What sort of, could you run us through maybe just a list of a couple of bands that you've played in over the years, starting with Marcus?
My main band before Witchskull was a band called Looking Glass.
Yep.
And I formed that band in December of 1997. And then me and the drummer, we probably tried out about 8 different bass players, and we really didn't get like the final lineup until about 2005.
Yep.
And then I got these 2 brothers to come and play with me on bass and drums, Lachlan and Clinton.
Okay.
and they're just phenomenal virtuosos.
Yep.
So we started doing pretty good gigs probably in about 2005.
Yep.
And then we just played a lot since then, and we played with a lot of overseas bands, and when we started rehearsing, we didn't stop rehearsing for about 7 years. I think we had a little break for a couple of weeks after that time. So we were having a good time. And then I think in about 2013, Tony and I decided that we'd start a band.
This is where Tony comes into it.
This is because Tony married my cousin, and my cousin, who grew up here in Canberra, Caroline, and she married him in Sydney, New York, and then brought him back here in about 2005.
Oh, cool.
And then I came across him, and we were like been inseparable since then, brothers. I've not really met very many other people that know as much about Jimi Hendrix and Tony Iommi as what I do. And I met a guy that was like full on. I was like just as very passionate about it. Grew up in New York, has watched hundreds of live bands. Literally, if you name a band, he's probably seen the band because that's what he did. He went out every weekend and watched bands play all the time. New York's the greatest city in the world. It's amazing people. They're vibrant. They're enthusiastic. They're energetic. It felt like home to me straight away. There was the people there at the studio treated us with a lot of respect, really well. Cups of tea, and it was fantastic. So then Tony and I, we're in a bit of a quandary about who we're going to find to play drummer. We've got to try and find a drummer. So we had a drummer for a while, Luke, who was a friend of mine. Luke wasn't as passionate as what Tony and me was, and I knew who the drummer was, and I said to Tony, I know who we need to get to play on drums, but he lives in Adelaide, and I haven't seen him for like 20 years, because Joel and I used to play in a heavy metal band back in high school. We were one of probably the first speed metal band in Australia. We were called Under Oath. And Joel's parents' house is not very far from high school, so literally 5-minute walk. So we would rehearse 5 times a week. After 5 times a week we would rehearse. We did Judas Priest, Motorhead covers, we did Black Sabbath. We're really good at Motorhead. And then I wanted the band to go original satanic metal. And I said this to Joel. We were like 14 years old. And Joe was, no, let's keep doing covers. So I said I didn't want to play anymore. 7 months later, Joel went and joined Armoured Angel. And Armoured Angel really took off, and probably Australia's premier heavy metal band of the 90s. And then, so I texted Joel with this weird text, like, do you remember me, the dude with the hair? been thinking about your brother, hope you're being well. And like, Joel's like, oh yeah, what are you doing, man? I'm like, well, Tony and me have got a band. So, because Joel's parents live here in Canberra. Joel grew up here in Canberra, of course. Joel came, I think it was Anzac Day, Easter, and we had a rehearsal, and it was almost like we'd been rehearsing for 20 years. It was incredible. Like, it was incredible. It was like absolutely incredible. Awesome. And I could hear the potential, and Joel could as well, and Tony could as well. And Tony didn't have his beard then. Joel had a very this is the influence that Joel's had on Tony, the big beard. I was actually the dude with the beard. I had a beard for 10 years, and as soon as I seen the competition, I just cut my beard off. So I'm not.
That's the reason why I don't grow mine either. I just can't compete with Marky.
You've got a very wispy, boyish face. It should be very hard to grow like a thick. You've got an awesome beard.
Thank you. It's just,
how long have you been growing that for?
It's been 4 years now.
How long? What about you, Joel?
Thank you.
Mine's about 5 years.
Tony's 4, 5.
This is like 3 weeks.
Man, when I first grew mine, it just grew out. It wouldn't grow down. And people used to laugh at me on public transport. And I just thought, I've just got to stick it out. And then it started to finally grow down. But man, at first, it was just like, it was a freak show. Man, it was terrible. Every day I thought about cutting it off. And then I thought, no, I'll stick it out.
It's good to finally have some other beards in the studio. I knew that there was a couple of bonuses for having you guys in. So that's Marcus's Like,
Well, there's 3 hell beards in the room.
yeah, it's
Competitive beards. Like, there's a...
Marky needs to grow it back.
Yeah, we've been saying for ages. Grow
We
the
try
beard
to
back.
pay him, but he won't take the cash.
Just take all his razors out of his house. Like any beard paraphernalia, just get rid of it so he can't shave.
So that was some of your early influences, and then you mentioned before that Joel did the Armored Angel stuff. I mean,
Phenomenal.
maybe you could go into a little more detail about how that was to play during that time of Australian metal.
I just think it's not that different, to be honest. I think Australia is just one of the hardest places in the world to make stuff happen.
Yep.
Because it's just so hard to tour. So even for us, you know, we've been going 5 years and we've still only played Sydney, Melbourne and Canberra.
Yep.
So we're getting to Brisbane for the first time. You know, like if we were an American band, you know what I mean, we could go off on 6 weeks tour, you know what I mean, all through the country and, you know, possibly try and make a living out of it. But here, there's just, you know, but we know that. It's probably an eye-opener for Tony. He's only been here for, 13 years, but he's like, he's an Australian now. Like, he's just firmly
I'm
entrenched.
Australian.
Once you're here, take it from me as well. Once you're here, you're stuck. You're Australian. That's it, man.
I'm an American and an Australian band. Full on, man. We're an Australian band.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
just been a big part of what we're trying to do. Is, you know, we thought if we could do something that could get us back to New York City every 18 months. Like, how good would that be? So, you know, that's the main reason for us to travel, is not for any reason other than to just
You've still got more of a foot in the door to America and New York from yourself. So that's still more than like a lot of bands have these days anyway.
Yeah.
So like you know, you're definitely gonna get something out there.
Well, look, we were signed to 2 separate labels for the first album, and they were both out of the US. So STB Records in New York would release the vinyl, and the CD and digital stuff was all released by Ripple, which was out of San Francisco. So I think we had a little bit of interest sort of stateside for that. But this one, I think we'll get a bit more sort of European interest just through Rise Above. But then again, I think Rise Above, you know, they're pretty well known the world over. So we're going to get a sort of a decent push. And we're already seeing that with press. Working with Lee's fantastic. Like, all of our dealings with him are directly with him. So although it's his label, you know, because he was in Lee, the guy who runs it, was originally in Napalm Death and Cathedral.
Okay, yep.
So he's just
one of my favourite bands of all time.
Yeah,
my third favourite.
Yeah, cool.
So it's awesome to be working with a label where the
Yeah.
guy you're still dealing with the guy that owns the label, so all of the contact with him, and he's just an unreal bloke. So we couldn't be happier. For us, to get onto that label is just like a bit of a dream come true, especially for Marky. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
It's amazing. I'm pinching myself. It's my favourite record label of all time.
Yep.
With half of my favourite bands have been on that label.
Yep.
Church of Misery, Goat Snake, Cathedral, Uncle Acid, Witchcraft. You know, the list just goes on. So I'm so stoked. I sort of feel like I can die a happy man now. You know, I feel like I've made it. I feel really happy now.
Yep.
Well,
I
that's
think
it.
musicians chase after something. I didn't want much.
Yep.
To be on Rise was awesome, and amazing things are growing from that.
Yep.
Fertile things. We're doing interviews with really good magazines. We're going to go to Europe. Just the acknowledgement and the validation is fantastic.
But it's
it's awesome.
It's also what I was saying about
It's
being in
awesome.
Australia. It's so difficult to break out. So the fact that we've now got a label that sort of gives us an outlet is just like, it's one of the hardest things. You know, and for us, we've been in the game a long time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's to finally nail something like that, especially for, you know, Marcus and I went right through school together. We had a band, you know, going when we were 15, sort of like Marky was saying, playing all the same style of stuff that we still play.
Yeah.
It's not a case of us trying to play stuff that sounds old. It's just that's all we can
We
play. It's all
didn't
we
try
know,
and-
you know?
Contrive anything. We just thought, let's be a cross between Black Sabbath and Motorhead.
Well, that's it. And for Tony, what's interesting
that.
about it is when we met Tony, he grew up on the other side of the world, but grew up because he's the exact same age as us. He grew up with the exact same music, and it's amazing how when you grow up with the exact same tastes, when you meet, that's it. It's like when I first met him, it's like we knew each other forever from the first 10 minutes. You know, and that's
you just
what's
think and
been.
play the same, and you just all the same
I think
thing.
it's people that have the blues, like the blues pentatonic scale,
Yep.
which is the humble scale.
Yeah.
It's the earthy scale. It's the non-pretentious scale.
Yep.
All these other exotic, scales, they're all very well. All you want to really is a bit of Dorian mode. If you listen to, there's probably 4 or 5 notes, and you just need to learn how to interchange them notes around.
Yeah.
We want to play really, really. Every note has to come from the gut. Nothing cerebral. Not even one note played from here. Everything coming, feeling it from the gut.
Yeah.
So we play with a lot of aggression, and we play everything from the gut. Nothing is cerebral.
You can definitely feel the passion from everything
Cheers.
you guys play.
Yeah,
very
and
passionate.
that's what I love about you guys as well. Like, you just got that passion.
Yeah.
And a lot of bands, like you're saying, like you guys, you've got that from the start, from where you've been playing for so many years together as well. And then you got yourself, and so you got your passion as well. And it's just you guys are just like a perfectly fitted jigsaw puzzle. And
Yeah, man, it's chemistry. We talk about it. Like the whole thing, we've all played in lots of different bands with lots of different people, but I've never had a chemistry like this.
Yeah.
This is just where, like Marky said, we did one rehearsal and all 3 of us couldn't sort of believe what had just happened. It was literally like we had been together
Oh, shit.
for 10 years playing.
Yeah.
It was just felt really weird.
Because I
But
said to them both, we're the best band in the world. And they looked at me like I had 2 heads. Now they're starting to realise, oh, maybe we are. The best
Yeah.
band in the world.
Well, see, this is the thing. I feel like at the moment I'm kind of, being like in my 20s talking to you guys. I nearly feel like that you should be the main presenter of the show because you guys have got all the experience and the knowledge. I remember
You
one.
got the good beard, but
Yeah.
Well,
and you got good patch action.
we
And Benny's from Bristol.
yeah.
And I
that's-
only
You just
prefer
look,
2
you
notes,
just look
not 5.
authentic.
Yeah, cool.
I
That's good.
know you.
Yeah.
I've seen you before.
Yeah, so I was
But I
go-
didn't, just not with your big beard.
I was going to touch on that. So I used to actually, when it was, too busy for the owner to get down to Black Sun or something, I used to go down there and shut up at the end of the night.
Oh, that's okay, man.
And
Yeah, right.
I can
The
remember.
beard's out of the bag.
And so I can remember sort of like, all right, it's time to close up, but I'd sort of go to that back door and I could hear you guys were just midway through jamming or for a riff or something like that. And I'd be like, I can't interrupt that. So I'd always step back and just sort of, I'd have my hand on the door handle, just waiting. And I'd always hang out, and I'd sort of like coincidentally heard a few of the really cool music that was coming out of you guys before you put out Vast Electric
Yeah,
Dark.
those
I
are
was
the riffs.
listening to you guys practice it and stuff, just for catching that last 5 or 10 minutes, because I didn't want to
awesome.
interrupt that vibe that you guys had,
yeah.
and it was always worth my time to just lock up the front door, make sure no one else was coming in, but let you guys have a
thank
little
you,
bit
man.
more.
Thank you.
Man, we're always apologising
think-
to you because
Yeah,
we're always
I
the last
remember you
dudes
now.
to leave every
no.
time.
I think literally for the first 3 years of us rehearsing, instead of having a 3-hour rehearsal, it would be like 6 hours, and the majority of it would be just us just talking crap. You know what I mean? And then play a bit of music. And then I think after about 3 years, we thought maybe we should, play more music. If we want to hang out and talk, because we're best mates. If we want to hang out and talk, we can do that. But if we're going to play them, so we have our set written on the wall, and we just treat it like we're doing a live gig.
Actually,
we
you're
do it
right.
exactly
That's
like
probably
that.
the difference between the 2 records. When we did the first one,
With a lot of talking.
well, but it was also a lot of time. We used to go in there and we'd rehearse till 2 a.m. We
Yeah,
ought to get up to work the next morning, but it just didn't matter. There was just this energy that we had, and like. The first album, I reckon you can hear that energy. Like it's, we didn't spend a huge amount of money on it. But what we captured was that rawness and that energy that we wanted. And with this record, it was done in a more structured way. So you can hear the difference between them, and we're happy with both of them. But there's definitely maybe that difference of this one we had a deadline to write on. That first one was just completely organic because we didn't know what we were doing. We were just jamming, doing 6-7 hour jams and just piecing songs together really organically. But I think you can hear there's certain songs that were from that same era that still made it onto this record. So I think you can hear there's definitely like a common thread that runs through them both.
Oh,
cool.
Well, we definitely become, like anything you do it, over time you become better at it. We're getting so much better now. Like we're getting better and better and better, and we're getting better with our songs. Songs are getting tighter, our choruses are getting stronger. We all love melody, so we want melody. We don't want NSYNC melody, but we want good, strong melody. Because really a good song, regardless of what style the music is, a good song should be played on a ukulele or on the piano or anything.
Yeah.
You know, and I think this is what a lot of people miss the point. They like the sound of a specific genre of music, and so they get their guitar and they make that sound, and it's like getting a paintbrush and buying all your paint and you bought your canvas. What are you going to paint?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so you've got
exactly.
to use, think about what you're going to paint.
Well, that had a
Something
lot
original.
to do why the three of us had very similar tastes. Like, the main difference was when we were 15, for me and Marcus, we went and saw Iron Maiden play the World Slavery Tour at the Canberra Theatre, you know what I mean? And that was the biggest thing that ever happened to us.
Dave Murray was like 10 feet in front of me.
Yeah.
We were kids.
At that
Yeah.
same time, in 1985, on the other side of the world, what did you see?
Anvil.
What did you see?
Man, Metallica, you name it. The beginning of thrash, I was there.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
You
Man,
know,
that must have been amazing though, just to be at the beginning of everything.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, man.
That is
Totally,
just,
like when thrash started, like Anthrax and Metallica were living in Queens, you know?
Yeah.
Slayer, like you'd go, I seen Slayer in Exodus for $5, Bonded by Blood, Hell Awaits. Like, tours
Jeez.
people would kill for. Metallica,
Yeah,
Ride
yeah.
the Lightning, like, Metallica lived in Queens, you know? But Anvil, man, like we were talking before about the, movie and the book, that was my band. I was like 14 years old. They were like the heaviest band on the scene, but they just missed their window of opportunity because thrash just came and killed them.
Yeah,
Exodus and Slayer and all those bands.
What were the clubs?
There's a kid, Lemoore's in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
There's a famous heavy metal club in Brooklyn, New York called Lemoore's, man. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
even the huge big metal bands like Judas Priest and Maiden would play an arena, and their second gig, there was always a second gig with big bands that you have to know what's going on, and they would go and play under like a different name than Judas Priest. They would just take a name of a song and play. Like, so you could actually go see Maiden in a pub when they would just played like to 20,000 people
You
that
said
night.
Mastodon, didn't you?
Yeah.
Play when they just started.
Yeah, Mastodon. Last gig
They
I
were
saw.
formidable, weren't they?
Last gig before I left New York City in 2005 at the Bowery, I saw Mastodon
Just
play.
a few people down the little pub.
Yeah, the Bowery Ballroom's a small, like, man, you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
walk right back into and from to the bar, you know.
Yeah.
I seen but the birth of rap, you know,
You seen
before white people were really into,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
it was real dangerous.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
going to the gigs, man. I saw the birth of that.
Yeah,
Hardcore too, CBGBs, all the
Yeah.
hardcore bands, Agnostic Front, Chromex,
Cliff
Warzone,
Burton.
all that. Yep.
I keep telling Marky that
Yeah.
we grew up in the wrong time, man.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the thing that annoys me the most.
But you got to hunt good music. That's all you got to
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
It's all there forever.
Yeah,
You have
exactly.
to hunt for good shit.
But
Yeah.
we all think we grew up at the wrong time, man.
Yeah.
I wish
Yeah.
if we were born 10 years earlier, we
Yeah.
would have been seeing
Zeppelin.
AC/DC with Bon
mean-
Scott at the Canberra Theatre.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
The music I really love is like the hippie folk music, Jefferson Airplane, Shocking Blue, Fairport Convention.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a hippie.
Yeah.
Late 60s. I wish
Yeah.
I could go back to the late 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zeppelin and Sabbath, the
69,
birth of that.
Yeah,
if
you
you
know,
look,
that's-
the music from 67 to 74, that's the best music.
It's interesting how it changes it. I mean, it's cool to hear the dynamic of the entire band. I know a bit about Marcus, I know a little bit about Joel. Now I know a lot more about Tony. It's cool to see how nearly in different parts of the world this band has been forming over the past,
Yeah, man.
40 years, you know.
The stars aligned over here
That's
in
how we
Australia,
feel.
dude.
Yeah.
Did you watch the Ramones?
Yeah, man, they're from Queens. They're like 10 minutes away from where I grew up, man.
Yep.
You know, like Anthrax, a lot of famous like bands. You know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like you can go to small.
To watch
like,
the Ramones back in the day would have been sick.
Yes, dude, man. There's so many bands. Like you could see a different gig every night in New York. Man.
Yeah.
Like all the bands in the world go there, so you could see a big show at Madison Square Garden, and then go to bars and clubs, and it's just
Yeah.
like tons going
I
on
mean,
all
I'm-
the time.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
I see
yeah.
Jimmy Page when he did that thing with the Black Crows,
Yeah,
and that was
yeah.
like really
Did you go
sick.
to that?
Yeah, man, that was really sick. Like
Yeah.
to see that, but man, I remember the day John Bonham died, man. Like everybody had tickets. It was 1980,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Everybody was gearing up to get tickets for that, and then it just, man,
I
he
remember
died.
when Elvis died and John Lennon.
Yeah, there you go. I remember Lennon, but Zeppelin, the tickets, everybody was getting them, man. They were coming in to do another tour, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of our. That's a big connection between me and Marky, and
Yeah.
you know, is like
Yeah.
Zeppelin,
I'm
Sabbath.
like full doom.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, Sabbath is. I'm just Joel's my Celtic Frost, Motorhead, and Venom.
Yep.
Heavy
Tony's
on the
like
Mantis
Zeppelin, Sabbath,
Hendrix.
Blues, and Jimi Hendrix, and also Exodus
Yeah.
And Funk.
and Clutch.
And blues.
But I think
Yeah.
it's that period.
But I mean,
man.
they're the core DNA of what we like.
Cool. So, I mean, obviously, you guys are kicking off a tour on the 6th of July at the Transit Bar.
Yeah, man.
For the launching your album, The Coven's Will.
Yeah.
We'll close up the interview now because that's all we have time for today.
Okay.
But do you have a favourite song you'd like to close out the interview with from the album?
What do you reckon? No, you pick one, man.
Joel, take
No,
it away,
you-
man.
Oh, look,
we'll
so-
fight it out.
Son of the Snake, maybe.
Fright.
Son of the Snake will go with the choice.
Oh, I was listening to that song yesterday.
Yeah.
And we just got our copies yesterday.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I hadn't. That's the first time I got to listen to that. So I had a mastered copy, and the mastered one sounds more basic.
2 songs, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Demon Cage and Son of the Snake there. Erica
Yep.
Stoltz. Man.
Cool.
She's killer, man.
Yeah,
Son
awesome.
Of the Snake. Yeah,
She's
that'd
phenomenal, and I never realised how sexy her voice is.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, we'll all get a
be.
chance
I
to
did
hear
before
that.
that. When
I
she was
didn't
doing it in
know,
the studio,
man.
I was
I
like,
didn't know.
holy, listen to this
Yeah,
chick.
we'll get a chance to listen to that now, and everybody out there can form their own opinions, but I'm sure it'd be fairly similar to that in the studio right now.
Cheers,
So
mate.
it's been awesome having you on the show.
Same here, man.
Thank you so much.
We'd love to have you again for more of a feature-length sort of thing.
Let's do it.
Maybe later on down the track, and we can get more into some of the cool stories you guys
Yeah,
have
because
to
we haven't
share.
even really started yet.
Yeah. So
I'm just like, oh.
there's a little teaser out there for everybody else. I
Yeah,
mean,
man.
stick around.
We could play tunes, man. We could just have,
Yeah,
we could
yeah.
have like take over the studio for the weekend if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
want, man.
We are Witchskull, and you're listening to Canberra Metalheads.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Bam!